Okay, let's go ahead and kick things off here. We got a lot to cover today. Welcome everybody to the July 18th City of Erie Land Bank meeting. There is a lot of material to cover. I know we have some guests who'd like to speak, so at this time, unless there are any questions from the board, I would seek a motion to approve the agenda along with the minutes from the June 20th meeting and the finance report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Aaron, we're going to go ahead and jump to citizens' comments, but I think we're going to hold the comments on these individual properties until we get to those properties. So were there any comments not related to specific requests?
I think Mr. Serafin is the only one who doesn't have anything on the agenda that would like to speak to the board.
Okay. Sir?
Good afternoon. Dan Serafin from Serafin's Food Market, Erie's oldest grocery store. Been there for 95 years. A couple properties, actually three. 552 East 24th came, I think it's in the land bank hands now. And it's an abandoned property. It's been sitting there, it's been passed and forth, passed back and forth on the tax sales and that for a few years, and it's been empty almost 9 years. We're worried about too is the vandalism and the arson. On 25th Street, we lost 5 houses over the last 2 years just to arson on 25th Street. And as a business, we need houses so that families can live in these houses, that they can do business at your business. And this is what scares me, is everything goes so slow, in that it's going to sit, that thing has sat there for 9 or 10 years. We put a bid on the house, and we just like to see it's boarded up now, but I'm just afraid it's going to be another victim of an arson, and we have properties located next to it also, and we don't need any more empty lots on 24th or 25th Street. We need families really bad. Everybody talks about redevelopment and everything as far as that goes. And we put our heart and soul into that neighborhood. We've been there for 95 years, and we're proud of how it looks. And I'd invite anybody to drive by 24th and Ash and just take a look how nice it does look. And there's some pictures. The other properties were the two properties at 554 and 550 East 25th Street. Those were 2 buildings that were burned down, I think, 3 years ago. We had a signed contract with the city to buy those properties, and I think they were waiting for somebody to release it that was out of town on the one, but we haven't heard anything for 3 years. And just to show you how committed we are, we don't ask the city for anything. And I mean, we just replaced the sidewalk on 25th Street in front of those lots because it was in that bad of condition, and that's something that we wanted to do. We needed to do it. But just to show you our commitment to the neighborhoods and everything else, what we do, we'd like to get that moving as far as those couple lots too on 25th Street. We've done a lot of work. If you could imagine those 2 lots that nobody touched for 3 years, what they would look like, and there's a picture of those lots, what it looks like. We planted grass, maintained it, cut it, trimmed trees, did the sidewalk, everything. And it's just, it takes so long, and we're trying so hard to get things to be moved. And this is another thing that I'm worried about on the 552 East 24th Street, is that we talked about it for months now, and it's not being brought up at the board. It just seems like we're stuck in the mud again here. But we're proud of where we're at. We want to be there for another 95 years. We're frustrated because everything moves so slow, and we're doing our heart and soul. And the city wants people. The city doesn't want empty lots either. They want people to have houses and live in these houses and do business with businesses. So I guess what I'm asking to do is whatever we can do to make things happen. And the city should want people like Serafins that are so dedicated and they've been there for 100 years to invest in the neighborhood and not have their hands out every time too asking for help. We know how important the neighborhood is, and we'd like to keep going. So I'm just asking for some help to try to get things moving and not have another arson or another. These buildings sit, and it's so hard to see. We chased kids out of that one last year. It was really bad. They were in there smoking. It's just bad, and we know we just need help. Good. Questions or?
No, but as a resident of the area and know the work that Seraphim's has done over the years, I strongly support Mr. Seraphim's request. And I thought we had discussed that property prior or at some point in the last year or so, and turning that over to him.
It was a property that was tied up in an issue with an individual who had purchased it from the tax sale prior to our condemnation. So we were trying to work out a relinquishment or a developer type agreement with her. She has since, about 3 months into that process, decided and declined to proceed any further. So the property was going down that road with her, and now we're on to the point where we've offered it out for developer proposals for 30 days under the policies and procedures. So as soon as that 30 days is elapses here, which is in the next week or so, the next board meeting will be for anybody who's put in proposals on that property. So hopefully at the August meeting, 552 24th Street is done for developer proposals.
Does that answer your question?
I think so.
And then 25th Street, I will get with you about those. I was unaware that they had not transferred those yet.
Okay,
So
awesome. Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments? Aaron, was there anyone else that you know
not
of?
that I'm aware of.
Sir, were you here for a specific property, or? Okay, we're going to address those with each property. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on then. Aaron, can you give us a quick update on the work plans?
Yeah, the 2021 work plans and 2022 work plan are provided to you. 2021, we continue to work through some of those properties as far as demolition, side lot conveyance, and such, and developer proposals. And then 2022 lists the properties we acquired at the tax sale last November, along with the 25 properties that we're working on condemnation action against here in the coming weeks. So that's where those stand. Like I said, demolitions are proceeding on the ones that are going to be demolished, and then we're working through putting the remaining ones out for interested developers to determine whether or not they are developer proposals or demolition candidates. There was about 6 of those that were on the fence. We also have gone through some of the past developer agreements and sent out notices of default to those individuals who have failed to do anything with their properties in the past year and a half or 2. So once we're about 30 days into that time frame now, they were given 60 days. If we don't hear anything, then we will execute a default letter to them and proceed with action to recapture those properties.
I just have a question. On those properties, they're not on the work plan list, am I correct? Because they've already been conveyed?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's like a separate list.
Yeah, they were part of previous year work plans.
More of a footnote. I know we've had this discussion off and on over the past few months, but the idea of having an escrow set aside for, especially for investment, for investors looking at these properties, maybe not so much those who are intending to be homeowners, but if we could just put that on agenda again in a month that maybe isn't quite so heavy, but
right. Well, we have, the board approved the policies and procedure amendment, which allows for the escrow under developer agreement. So that is part, and anyone who has put in a developer proposal today for these properties are aware of the new escrow requirement on developer proposals.
okay. I didn't know if there's anything we needed to do to follow up on that.
No, I think we amended the policies and procedures, and so we're good moving forward.
Great. Anything else, Aaron?
That is all I have under the...
Did we have any updates from our solicitor?
I did not hear anything from him. I thought he was... Oh, and he's just walking in.
Okay.
So. You want to go to window glass?
Yeah, let's go ahead and move ahead. We'll give him a chance to settle in a little bit. Let's move on to new business, and I know we have a guest here speaking on behalf of Prism Glass Recycling. Laura, you want to come on up?
Good afternoon, everybody. Laura Gunshin, 1540 East Lake Road, 16511. Prism Glass Recycling is an Erie Management Group company, well known for the big blue boxes around town that we all love to use, correct? The next step in the process, we have a commercial route. I had the occasion last week to meet with Aaron and Mindy relative to window glass recycling. Thought it important for the land bank to consider deconstructing a property and responsible recovery of recyclable materials prior to demolition. A lot of the homes that you take down don't have a lot of windows in them, so it's not, a financial motivation to do so, but responsible management of waste is more of the motivation. So the windows themselves would be set aside on a smaller job, and we could either pick them up or they could be brought to us. On a larger job, we would have a conversation with the demolition contractor about how to handle those appropriately. A good example is we recovered all of the glass out of the Knights Inn, which was the old hotel across from Prep. Had a call from that demolition contractor as he wondered if windows were indeed recyclable and how to handle that. So I did send some potential language for bid documents that would be considered by the board relative to that. If it does run afoul of the procurement code to name one specific company, then obviously remove that. Questions about the types of material? Older homes are actually ripe for recycling, as those are usually single-paned older windows. We cannot, unfortunately, accept any windows that are laminated. Safety glass is typically laminated, prevents it from breaking, but older homes often have the type of material that is perfect for recycling.
So I guess mine's more of a comment than a question, and we haven't seen anything yet, but I appreciate you coming in and giving us an overview of this. And you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Indeed.
That if there's not really a financial upside to it, but if there's not the associated expense or liability, I think it's something we definitely need to look at. So I appreciate you coming in, and I look forward to seeing language proposal.
Yeah, she provided the language. We're looking at that. I reached out to a couple of the demo contractors to talk to them about kind of procedural wise how that would look for them and that. So once I get the feedback from them, I'll pass that along to the board, and we'll hopefully review that at a future meeting.
Sure.
Great.
There is no disposal fee on the weight of that material. I should have mentioned that. So on a larger job, there's slightly a financial incentive to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Aaron, 213 Hess.
You want to do solicitor's report or?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Gene, can I throw you right into the fire here? Throw you right into the
glad I'm here. Real quick, there were 10 properties of the properties that were purchased by the Erie Land Bank as part of the tax sale process. There were 10 properties that had title defects, mostly coming out of estates. So what we have done is we have done full title search. We've done the due diligence background to try to locate all of the heirs and beneficiaries of those estates. We have filed the complaint and have sent that out to all the heirs and beneficiaries of the estates. And that's a lot of times you'll see that where the houses, mom or dad have passed away, the last of them have passed away, and the kids don't want anything to do with it, and they're afraid of opening up an estate for fear that they would be assuming liability or responsibility in some way. So that's kind of the backdrop of what I'm finding on these properties as well. So of the 10 properties, we have prepared the complaint, filed the complaint, and have sent them out to the heirs or beneficiaries. We have a judge assigned to hear those, and under the quiet title action, specifically as it applies to land banks and other entities like land banks, we can have an expedited hearing. And I have filed a motion with the judge assigned to have that expedited hearing set within 90 days. Because I think, and it makes sense, that in all likelihood, since none of the beneficiaries of heirs have stepped up when the last passed away, they're really not going to object at this point when we're trying to clear the title and ultimately enable us to sell the parcel. So that makes sense, and I was glad to find that the rules accommodated that. So that way, we're not stringing out this process for an extended period of time. So I have prepared that motion, and in fact have a copy of all that documentation for the executive director here today. Again, the complaints have been filed, judge has been assigned, and we've requested for the expedited hearing. So I'm thinking within 90 days, Aaron and I will we'll go through those 10 properties. If someone wants to object, if there's an heir who wants to come forward, that's why we're providing them with notice. We've already received a couple of phone calls Friday afternoon, so the service process is coming and they're just nervous and they go, I don't want anything to do with it. That's fine. You don't need to do anything with it. If you want to come to the hearing, we're going to send you more notices. We're not trying to make you nervous or uncomfortable, but it's part of our process. If you want to come to the hearing, this is what we're doing, and they're okay with it. They just, again, are worried that they're going to assume liability or responsibility for these properties that were, their parents or grandparents or whomever. Okay, so that process is started, and we're full steam ahead.
Is there a way to indemnify them from any potential issue that might come back? I mean, if you're going to expedite the hearing, can we also attach an indemnification to, as we're trying to quiet the...
There are procedures and processes involved that if we need to file supplemental or amended information or documentation that comes through, and that's why under the rules that they've pushed it out 90 days to give us that opportunity, so that if someone does call me and say, hey, look, we've run into situations where someone might have moved into it or something like that. Hey, we let our niece move into that, or that enables us to file amendments or supplement it. So the 90 days is fast, but it also enables us to do some amendments. Okay. So I think we're in good play. I think we're in a good position with these 10 properties from the tax sale.
Thank you.
Dunbar, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On the new developers packet,
Yes, sir.
we discussed adding about recapturing properties in the event the property owners either don't use the properties
Right.
or abandon them, which is taking place up, I discussed with Aaron.
Right, and we had talked about implementing language about a right of reverter, so that if they don't use the property as directed or don't keep it up and there's additional code violations, that the land bank would have the authority with a short filing to take the property back. Is that your concern? Right. Because you don't, all of a sudden you drive by and they're not keeping the property up, and they're not doing what they promised the land bank they would do when they came forward to say, this is how we're going to develop it. This is how we're going to use it. Then all of a sudden, lo and behold, that doesn't happen. We're implementing language within that documentation for the right of reverter. We had talked about, and I had reviewed, even with, we're doing the same thing with the empty lots, the parcels where the properties have been bulldozed. We don't want to get into a situation where they aren't taking care of it, and now we're getting phone calls from the neighbors saying, hey, look, this is a site where people are dumping trash. So yeah, we are now implementing, we're taking the steps now to implement language to make sure that we still have limited authority to go and take that back if the developer, or in some cases the property owner, is not taking care of it the right way, or as they asserted to us that they would be doing.
And I just wanted to bring that up because not only that, but since we've discussed all this, I'm specifically talking to the properties on the southeast corner of 22nd and French, on the south side of 22nd Street between French and Holland, and then I'm talking about those leased properties from Erie National Institute was supposedly leased them. Those properties have been abandoned. And, you know, what do we do? You know, they're not, the grass isn't getting cut, there are weeds up, there's rodents coming out. You know, those things have to be addressed. That's why, you know, my interest is to make sure there's some kind of recapture clause before we do any of these things in the future.
Right, and that,
Because it's a mess up there.
and that makes sense. That makes sense to include that language in there, the right of reverter. Now, I will let you know, when you have right of reverters in there, that means that the land bank would have certain title rights. So if for example, I owned the house next to it and I bought the empty lot next to, and I was keeping it mowed, and then I sold it to someone else, it might necessitate in that deed, and we can talk about even on Hess Street, it might necessitate the land bank to sign off on that deed to confirm that we're relinquishing the right of reverter and that there's been no code violations during the time that it owned. But that's a hurdle that we can, you know, easily resolve, and that's what I think we're probably going to talk about with the Hess property with Attorney Vendetti as well, because that language was inserted in that deed. Is that, Aaron, is that right on Hess Street?
Yes, with our deed restrictions,
Yeah,
yes, but yeah,
right.
that was different than the maintenance agreement we're working on now.
Right. But that's, language can be inserted to protect the neighbors and to enable us to enforce what needs to be done, which was assured to us by developers and landowners.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on then to disposition for the vacant lots.
You want to do Hess Avenue real quick?
I'm sorry, yes. A
So,
little bit out of order, yeah.
213 Hess Avenue was a property that was conveyed to 211, the owner of 219 Hess, back in 2019. Erie Land Bank lot, as you're aware, anything that is conveyed under the Erie Land Bank deed has a restriction that they are unable to consolidate, merge, subdivide that lot for a period of 5 years. That falls back because of our 50-50 tax split ability with the taxing bodies. Okay, so that restriction's on there. This individual cannot conjoin the two properties for whatever reason. So at this point, he is selling 219 Hess, which included, you know, the sale of 213 Hess as part of the sale of the property. He's moving out of the area. The mortgage company for the new owner will not provide a mortgage on the property unless they can combine 213 to 219. So Attorney Vendetti reached out last week, wondered if there was something we could do, if we could sign off saying they could join the property, and I told him really at this point that's on the board's authority to make a decision such as that. So I had reached out to Gene about what would need to be done to facilitate that if the board wanted to consider the relinquishment of those deed restrictions and allow that to happen. And I would say, just as a side note, this isn't the first time, and it was something that I'd hoped to get onto the agenda sooner than later, for the simple fact that as we start to convey some of these lots to side lots to adjoining property owners, that deed restriction prohibits them from building a garage, because the city zoning ordinance doesn't permit a garage on a single lot unless it is combined, you know, or has a house on it. So in that case, what would be the circumstance that owner now wants to build a garage? We're prohibiting them from doing that for 5 years. So how would we facilitate doing that and still protecting the revenue side of the land bank through the tax recapture? Now, given if the properties are assessed as they are when we convey them for $500, our tax recapture on those is minimal. A lot of what we're recapturing right now is on properties where the land is assessed at, and I think, I don't recall, but 213 Hess, I believe, is assessed at $9,500 land value. So we're getting, well, over the remaining 4 years, we would get $706.64 off that property. Now, if they assessed it down to the $500 that he purchased it for, that probably goes down to $80. Combining it would prohibit us from getting the tax assessment off of that lot, because now it would be one taxed parcel and the land bank had no obligation on the house. Yeah. So now it would take the tax assessment up to $60,000, and that's not the way the legislation was written. Right.
We also don't want to slow somebody's ability to sell the property to someone else because it may slow activity.
Yeah, I was thinking whether we could put a cap on the, you know, if it was under a certain amount, the amount of the assessment, maybe some sort of threshold where we could automatically waive. Because if it is such a low amount and it really doesn't make, you know, as you're saying, it's pretty much a pittance to us. But if it was a higher amount, I don't know that we would want to waive that. So maybe a threshold number would be helpful.
Yeah, they're looking to close. They were supposed to close last Friday. This kind of delayed that closing until they're hoping this Friday. They will proceed with the sale one way or another. They'll proceed on Friday with 219 Hess if there's no answer from us, and then they will just facilitate in their contractual filings that 213 Hess will go with the property. It just won't be part of the mortgage. So I don't know, don't ask me how they're going to do that. That's more of a Gene question.
I had a chance to take a look at all of this, and I understand the buyer's bank wants that side lot part of it because it increases the value of the collateral. So that makes sense. And the buyer wants that because obviously now he has a side lot and he might have the ability to put a garage on it. And I would think that part of the closing cost, you know, we could provide that number that Aaron has stated, $704. Look, we're willing to sign off on it, and I think that the deed would need to include Aaron's. It would be the seller, current owner. Aaron's is also signing as the grantor to extinguish or remove that preclusion or exclusion of the side lot. So now the land bank is relinquishing those restrictions in exchange for what we might have otherwise been credited to over those. And as the seller's going to go, okay, I'll get clear title, I'll be able to transfer this to the buyer. If the seller wants to pay it, or if the seller and the buyer wants to split it, done. We're done, we're made whole, we've accomplished what we needed to do. You know, we haven't made more money, we haven't lost money.
So you're
And you
essentially
can do it by a
creating a transfer
case-by-case
tax.
basis. Pardon me?
You're essentially creating another transfer tax.
You are.
This is what you would have owed if you would have held out for the 5 years. Might be $100.
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, but it's protecting the precedent here.
It is. And transfer taxes are usually split between the parties for Northwest, certainly Erie County. The buyer and the seller should split that. You know, I can speak with Attorney Vendetti. I'm sure he's going to agree to that. You know, for $350, they all get what they want. That's a no-brainer. That gets this done. It makes the bank happy. It makes us whole. And again, we are setting a precedent so that if it is more, we're going, hey, look, even with the little transactions, this is what we require. You know that going in when you're buying these side lots, that if you sell them within 5 years. And on the closings that I do, a lot of times with the first-time home buyers, they're getting, I'll see a lot of times, they'll get a $5,000 grant as long as they own the property for 5 years, and I tell them, look, you have to own it for 5 years. If you own it for every year, $1,000 comes off. It's a grant to you. So hold on to it for 5 years. In this situation, you're telling people, look, this is going to be here for 5 years, but if you sell it before that, there's going to be some ramifications, just like on the first-time home buyer. So I think that the parties will say, yeah, that's a no-brainer. We'll split it, just like the transfer taxes. Let's go, and then everybody's happy. And we'll receive that check as a result of the closing.
That was going to be my recommendation. I mean, just to, like Gene said, set that precedence going forward that, you know, we will relinquish those deed restrictions if you make the land bank whole on what we would have captured.
I think that's a great balance, because I don't want to slow the ability for people to sell or develop. But yet it protects, it keeps our precedent, so. We need a motion from us then to.
Motion to, I guess, accept the relinquishment of the deed restrictions pending payment of the 4-year 50/50 tax recapture.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, now on to disposition.
All right.
So let's go ahead and start with the vacant lots are up first. Do we have anyone here to, well, let's go one property at a time. How would we do that?
All right, so 952.
Well, there's a couple of them that we just have one bid, right? They're not competitive, so
422 Poplar.
you want to start with the ones that, okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, 422 Poplar. I don't believe Mr. Renninger's here. No. Open it for discussion. I actually called him this weekend just to talk about his plans. Comments? It's pretty straightforward. He'll take care of the property, so. I seek a motion to approve the bid for 422 Poplar.
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. 2308 Camphausen. Mr. Heffernan, is he here?
Anybody here for 2308 Camphausen?
There's no, I have to make it last.
Oh, okay.
No? Okay.
I have a question. I see the Camp House is listed twice. Is that the same lot with two different people? or-
There are two proposal offers for the purchase of Camphausen.
Oh, I see,
One,
okay.
both property owners on the north and south side of that lot have put in an offer. So
Oh, there are two.
unfortunately, both for $500. Both of them are current on their taxes, no past due utilities, no other blighted owned properties. Both have an offer of $500. Both maintain their properties in good standing, so.
So this is the hard one then.
I will say the board has done in the past in a similar situation with the person who put the proposal in first, which would be Mr. Blake Heffernan. Turned his proposal in, I believe, on the 16th of June, and Stanley turned his in on the 20th or 21st of June. But they are equal, and that's,
Okay, so this is the one where they're on each side of the
yes,
property.
yes.
Well, given no other mitigating factors, I think time of day or, date of delivery of documents would stand.
Yeah. Do we want to go back and ask for highest and best, or just go with timing?
Oh,
It's probably not worth a couple
It
bucks.
should be highest and best
And
because the escalation clause.
I think they both left it blank or have.
I know, it's a tie all the way down. That was
Yeah.
the same there, too.
And Mr. Heffernan bought his property in 2017, and Mr. Sparks bought his in 2018. So both of them are relatively new owners, so there's really not one who's higher
Do
time
we have
than
an
the other.
obligation financially to go back for a highest and best?
That's the board's direction, if you would want us to do that, we
It's
could
not a
do
whole
that.
lot of money here, but
I guess I'd suggest that too, as far as
I
going
mean,
back
I
and
really
seeing
go either way,
after he
Yeah.
really wants the property.
unless you think it's just,
Yeah, one has to worry about the administrative time and expense to, you get $5 more, I think about the,
There's precedent to whichever was submitted first. I'm perfectly fine keeping with that precedent if all things are equal.
I am too. Yeah, I am too. All right, well, then I'd seek a motion to approve Mr. Heffernan's bid for 2308 Camp Housing.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Let's go with 2912 Pine Avenue. Anyone here to, I'm sorry, nobody for vacant lots. So Pine Avenue, looks like we have two bids.
Yeah, we have two bids, both from, one is, so Susan Bowser owns the property behind 2912 Pine Avenue. The street name escapes me at the moment. And then Ms. Jackson owns the property to the north on Pine Avenue. Both are current, but Ms. Bowser put in for $2,500 and Ms. Jackson has an escalation up to $1,000.
So it looked like this was the fenced area behind where the house used to sit, at least on Google Maps. It was like
Yeah, 2912 is a very deep lot.
Yeah.
So Ms. Bowser sits all the way up the street, and then Ms. Jackson's property is about as narrow and as deep and sits directly to the north.
okay.
I know Ms. Bowser, has, every time we've visited the property, has walked down and met with us. She's met with code enforcement when demolition coordinator was out there. So every time she sees somebody, she's there to find out what's going on.
I mean, the property looks well maintained.
What's that?
Her property looks well maintained, so.
Yeah.
I mean, if all things are equal, which I don't really see a difference here, it's pretty much the bid. Any comments on Pine Avenue? And it's hard, I pulled both up on Google Maps, I was looking at it, and they're both,
I don't want to oversimplify, but since we have so many here today, I guess I'm just asking, I mean, doesn't it make sense to take the highest bidder here? And I'm asking as a new member to the board, but it seems to me that
yeah.
that would
I
be
mean,
the way
unless
to
there's
just do
comment,
this, right?
unless there's comment, I don't see, I mean, to me, the tiebreaker is the bid.
Right.
So unless anyone has a comment, I'd seek a motion then to approve Ms. Bowser's bid for 2912 Pine Avenue.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That takes us to 952 West 11th.
All right, so two offers here, one from Edward Johnson, who owns the property to the west of this property. He actually owns two parcels to the west, so this would make him owning three parcels in a row. And then the other one, Mr. Baskins owns a property on 10th Street that backs up to this property.
Mr. Baskins, though, is the property, it's owner occupied, right?
Yes.
He's owner occupied, the
Yes.
other one's an investor?
Yeah, he is owner, it's owner occupied on, like I said, on 10th Street. About 25 feet of the property's touched in the back.
would be in favor of the property owner, since he already owns the property and he's just looking to, you know, have additional space.
I agree. Even though the bid is lower, I always feel compelled to go with the occupant, the actual homeowner, as opposed to an investor who doesn't live in the city. So that would be my... Paul? I'd seek a motion then to approve Mr. Baskin's offer for 952 West 11th.
So moved.
Okay, I got a second there too. So all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, takes us to 708 Payne.
All right, 708 Payne, we have three proposals. One from Mr. Johnson again, who owns the property to the direct north of 708 Payne. Mr. Brzezinski, who owns the property and is an owner-occupant to the property just south of 708 Payne. And Ms. Kowaleski, who owns the property on 7th Street that backs up to the back of 708 Payne.
She's the owner-occupant, Ms. Kowaleski.
Yes, Robert Brinsky is owner-occupant to the south. And again, Mr. Johnson is a rental property to the north.
No, Ms. Kowaleski. She's owner-occupant.
Oh, Kowaleski. She said she owns, it's a single-wide trailer on the parcel that directly abuts it. Is it-
Owner-occupant?
I believe so, if that's not a question.
Yeah, she owns both parcels. She owns rent. No, I don't have those ones.
Do we know what Mr. Brzezinski's utility lien is? Is that a municipal utility?
Mindy?
It doesn't ask if it's owner occupant, it doesn't say. So, and then his past due utility bills. He has both water, sewer, and garbage, totaling 800.
Thank you. Discussion. Comments?
I guess I feel here, again, the gentleman with the past due utility liens, I mean, I have a problem conveying there. So of the other two, you know, Mr. Johnson's, and I'm looking at the map here, they're on either side. Mr. Johnson, you know, higher bid here, seems to be using it for an appropriate purpose, so I would be fine with that.
I got a question on the past due utility liens. What exactly does that mean?
They have outstanding utility bills. So with all of the applications that we've gotten, we check to make sure if they have any past due taxes, and then we're able to check if they're Erie residents, if they have garbage, water, or sewer liens.
Liens or past due bills?
Well, I guess it's past due bills is what we receive. You can tell from the bills, because usually the bill will show that there's a balance on there, but you can tell whenever ones have sat for some time because they start to accumulate, and then you can tell if it was something that's just, it's a quarterly bill that hasn't been paid yet.
And for that dollar amount, that's more than one quarter.
Right, right.
I mean, I don't want to set the precedent where I mean, you can't be rewarded for that kind of.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know, I just got a question, if it's a past due bill? I mean, were these people laid off? Were they sick with COVID? Or, I don't know, but it's whatever the board decides.
And he was made aware of these past due utilities that,
It's on the application. I mean, we were really trying to vet people because we have had such a large amount of interest in all of these properties. We're trying to vet people to make sure that they're good citizens and that they're taking care of their properties.
I'd have a concern, though, setting a precedent. You know, we've tried to establish a precedent with federal ARP dollars and grants, you know, enterprise zone loans, things like that, where, you know, if you have past bills, you have past liens, it's a disqualifier. And once you open that door a little bit, even if there's a compelling reason, it's going to create issues with other decisions later. That's my concern.
And I can tell you, we've had people that it's come back and they've had past due taxes, or past due taxes and utilities, and I have notified them that that was going to be an issue, and we've had people that went and paid them and proved to me that they were paid, so.
Yeah. I mean, I would welcome that individual to try again if they can become current, but so we're between, so the high bid then is Mr. Johnson's. Paul, you okay with that? Barb, you okay with that?
Well, I'm just going to abstain on it, whatever the vote is. Because that doesn't, I don't know. I just have issues when I look at past due utility or liens, and there's a yes, but there's no explanation in there. I mean, is this a history of it, or is this just one quarterly bill, or what have you? It doesn't tell me anything here.
Maybe next time we can get a little more detail. That might be helpful, because that's a good point. Because I think at some point, at some time or another, we've all fallen one quarter behind. We forget to pay it or something. So we don't want to have such a touchy trigger for that either. So maybe we can have a little more detail next time. That's a good point. Thank you. Are we on board with Mr. Johnson's bid then? If so, I'd seek a motion.
So moved.
Can you get a second? No, I think we have a motion to accept Mr. Johnson's bid.
which one?
For 708 Payne.
Motion to accept his for $1,500.
Yeah. We have a motion. I just need a second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain.
Or I vote, yeah.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, Aaron, we good with vacant lots? Then we can move on to
Yes, that's all. vacant lots.
developers. Okay.
Chris, before we move on, can I ask, since we asked for some additional information on the utility, is it possible in the future to also get the address of the buyers on this sheet? Just because, as we're all trying to triangulate who lives where, it'd be helpful if that was on the tally sheet.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Because I know it's in here, but we're constantly thumbing through all the paperwork. Okay. So let's move on to developers' proposals, and we'll do the same thing. We'll take one property at a time. Let's go ahead and start off with East 6th Street, 605, 607. Do we have anyone here to speak on, sir? Would you like to come on up?
605. How you doing? My name's Derek Hughes. Good afternoon. I also want to thank Mandy for that. She did help me. I had a tenant that had missed outstanding balance. She made me aware of that, but contacted me. I didn't know nothing about it, but she told me to clear it up. I went to go clear it up, so I'd like to thank you for that. How you doing? I'm interested in 605. as my proposal. I'm here, I want to build communities up. You know, I came from an urban area. I currently is in the process of also purchasing 610 East 6th, so right directly across the street. So I will be right there. So I thank you for the opportunity also. So I seen what it needs. It needs dressed up. And like let's build it up. I don't want to just say, hey, I want to buy it and don't fall through with it. I like to build a relationship with you guys and show you guys, hey, everything I said I was going to do, I'm going to do. You know, I want to, you know, have a good reputation with you guys. I don't know, it's my first time doing this. I'm not a good speaker. I don't know. But I will, anything I propose on it, I will take care of it. I will do it. I will, you know, I just want to build a relationship with you guys. Give me an opportunity. I did projects. I have 5 projects in my name. Already have houses. But, you know, I should have brought pictures and stuff. I was like, oh, crap. I should have did that. That was more, this is my first time. I used to go to tax sale, but I'm a little shivery because I'm not a good speaker. But I'm trying here. You know, I have to do what I got to do. And, well, if any questions if you like to ask me, I could maybe help you out better and help me present myself better. Okay.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you joining the meeting.
I appreciate y'all for even letting me come and speak to you guys, and thank you for your opportunity and your time. But I'm looking forward to try out next year, this year, or when I win. But thank you.
Thank you.
But I appreciate it.
I have a question about the monetary escrow requirement. So in some of these, you've indicated they've either accepted the terms or it's not applicable or they did not answer. I guess I'm wondering how that process went so we can understand, you know, the not answering versus.
Sure, that was something that we realized after the fact that I needed to add into the applications that was not there. So I did send out an email to the entire group explaining how that was going to work, explaining how the developer agreement would work, the escrow of monies. So if it says accepted, and I did ask in that email for them to reply to me to state that they understood what that meant. So if it says they accepted the terms, they replied and said that they knew what, they were fine with it. If it says NA, the offer came after that took place. So a few of these offers came in at the very last minute. And then if it says did not answer, they did not reply.
So the ones that came in at the last minute, the escrow clause was already in there.
No, it was not, but they
was
weren't
just too
part of
late
the
for
initial
you.
email,
Got
yes.
it, got it, okay.
Aaron, is there any insight you want to give us? You've probably dealt with most, if not all.
Insight on these individuals or the proposals? No, I mean, we really don't have any history or experience with any of these 4 individuals on here. You know, I've talked to several of them over the years. You know, yeah, I mean, it's really, you know, first time for every single one of them.
None of them are owner-occupied, proposing to be owner-occupied.
They're all rental proposals. The intent for all of them is to rehabilitate them and provide a rental. It is a 2-unit duplex structure currently, so there's no amendment to the building there to make it a duplex. Their cost estimates were all fairly similar. Yeah, I wish I could provide a little more detail for you, but about what it is.
I mean, it seems like, given that that is all equal, that it now is a question of bid. But I would like to see, I mean, if we agree it's a question of bid, then the highest bidder's going to have to, you know, we accept their offer contingent on proof of funds. They're going to have to match that. And the monetary escrow agreement.
And I don't know if it's necessarily a bad idea for us to pick our first choice and on our second choice for these, because there are some discrepancies where some proof of funds haven't been provided and or the escrow agreement was not addressed, so that way we don't have to wait to bring it back to you at the next meeting if for some reason the first choice of ours isn't able to sign the agreement.
So the way I look at this is, first choice would be offer 4, second one would be offer 1 because he's local. All other things being equal.
Yeah, I guess Wonder Drake is not a city of Erie resident. She lives in Tennessee.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
she does own property in the city of Erie, several
I
several
realize that
properties.
bid's higher, but
Yeah.
that's just a personal feeling I have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to speak for everyone.
Well, and what sticks out on offer 4 is that the Norries own property next door. You know, they own a investment property next door. One with having some experience in managing, multifamily, having contiguous properties really helps with the quality of your management, concentration of property management.
Yeah, I think that I would agree with Chris's proposal of offer 4 and offer 1. I do just want to say, however, I read the administrative policies and procedures before coming today because I feel a little unsure of how we're making the decision. And under 4.2, conveyance of properties, it does say that we're to take into account the intended or planned use and then also the nature and identity of the transferee. So I certainly think we should take into account local or not. That makes absolute sense to me. I would like to say that I also take into account the nature of the transferee who comes and speaks to us. I think that was very meaningful today, so I feel inclined to take that into account as well. But in terms of the bid quote, I think that I would agree with Mr. Groner, offer 4 and offer 1, and just encourage perhaps anyone else to try again with this process, particularly those that have expressed interest.
I agree with Ms. Devlin on that, and I want to just commend Mr. Hughes for coming in and addressing us, and stick with your work, stick with it. We need our neighborhoods and streets developed.
Well, and I think we're in agreement. I would seek a motion then to approve offer number 4, contingent that they provide proof of funds and agree to the monetary escrow, and offer number 1 as a backup. Hopefully I got all that right. So I seek a motion.
Is that 4 and 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So move.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That takes us to, let's move on to 2624 Woodlawn Avenue. I think we have someone here to speak on Woodlawn. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Board. I think most of you know me, but I would like to introduce my son, Nathaniel, local resident, plans on living in the city of Erie if he's fortunate enough to win the bid today. I won't go over everything that I submitted in the interest of time, but I will say that I do feel very strongly that what I plan to do with this building on behalf of my son is probably what the land bank really strives for. I've won 96 awards of excellence for the work that I did when I was still out in the field, and I'm really excited about this project. I can tell you that when we are done with this, it will be virtually a brand new building. So I don't know if you have any other questions for us. Nathaniel, would you care to say anything?
Hi, my name's Nathaniel Laughlin. I'm excited to be a part of this process and see how this sort of stuff works. I have a couple of years in landscaping experience and a couple of years in residential and other types of construction experience. This would be my first project like this, but I think with the help of my dad and my personal experience, combined with sort of the sweat equity idea, I think that we could accomplish everything that we've put in the proposal, and I would be living there as well.
You fully intend to live there?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Do you need anything further out of us, Chris?
See if there's any other questions, but thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think this property got the most bids out of all of them. We've got 5 on here, but again, going back to the whole preference for owner as opposed to investor, I think that takes us from 5 to 2.
He has his hand up right there.
I'm sorry? Oh, yes, sir. Are you here for Woodlawn? Yes. Okay, come on up. Sorry about that, I didn't see your hand there.
It's fine. Good afternoon, board. My name is Hud Kennedy. Been living in Erie for about 20 years. Grew up in that area. Lived on Bird Drive, then moved to government housing on Woodlawn. Went to school in St. James, which is maybe 5 blocks away from that house. So in the little story I wrote, I don't know if you guys had time to read it, I used to be a crossing guard in that area when I was in St. James. Yeah, I'm not sure what else you guys want to know. But yeah, I'm very interested in the property. I also have another property. I'm a real estate investor, but this particular property, I'd be owner occupying it. I'm familiar with rehabbing. I did work at Habitat for Humanity for about 3 years. In addition to that, I also do my own work in my own rentals when they need flipped, when they need a tenant moved out. But yeah, if there's any other questions, I can answer them now. Also included, I don't know if you guys saw the pamphlet, but there's like some evidence of my work, pictures and such.
Thank you for the detailed scope. You provided good information. Thank you. If we have any questions, if we do, we'll call you back up. Thank you.
I guess I'm struck here first by the wide range in cost estimates. I mean, huge difference there. Certainly I think that speaks to then the ultimate value of the property, but I don't know that there's an answer for it. I'm puzzled by it.
It is a great property. It's a nice 2-unit stack, 3-bedroom, 1-bath with a 20 by 24 2-car garage in the back, in a decent, stable neighborhood, just, inside the city of Erie limits on the east side. So, I mean, there was a lot of interest from the investor community on it because of its location and the stability of the neighborhood.
And I got to add, I went by there this morning. It's on a nice block, beautiful neighborhood, and it would certainly, I know the neighbors would appreciate anyone taking on that property and putting it back up to code requirements and standards.
Can I revisit the escalation clause? Because I think that may play a role here. So 2 numbers have been given to us. So it'll automatically revert to an increment higher than highest escalation on the other?
So they have, so how it works is they can offer their proposed purchase price. So basically it allows them to do a minimum and a maximum, knowing that there were other bidders in the process and wanting to maximize whatever, what they felt the property was worth. So how I explain it to them is to give their proposed price, which would be the minimum, offering up to whatever their maximum would be in certain dollar amounts. So that means it would go over if somebody's offer is at 5,000, but they did an escalation to 10,000 and 500 increments. If the max purchase price of what they were going against was 9,000, then theirs would go to 9,500.
Okay. It's not going to go all the way to the top. It's going to be an increment over the other person's maximum escalation, which I assumed, but I wanted to clarify because I think we're going to have that's going to play a role here.
I guess we have to actually kind of look at if we're looking at home ownership or if we're looking at rental. And I guess my preference has always been home ownership. But that's just my opinion.
And I agree with Ms. Smith simply because it appears to be a homeowner neighborhood with not a lot of rentals or appearance of rentals. That's what we're looking for, to stabilize neighborhoods.
I think that takes us from 5 down to 2, right? Yeah, I think the escalation clause now is going to be the determining factor if everything else is equal.
So offer one's escalation clause is higher, correct? So just understanding they'd be willing to go higher on the bid.
So if you're comparing offer number 1 to offer number 5 with the escalation clause, offer number 1 would escalate to 8,500. So it would beat out the other offer by the $500.
I don't know what else we have to use as a determining factor here to be fair and equitable. And I don't know how else we can.
So I'm in favor of offer 1 simply on that basis. I think I agree. We need to put an emphasis on owner occupancy, particularly as Mr. Gamble has said, in the neighborhood where that seems to be prevalent. And because of the escalation clause, I'm in favor of offer 1.
I agree.
And then offer number 5 is the
Backup.
But both pending the answer on the monetary escrow, certainly.
Then I would seek a motion to approve offer number 1 as the bidder, with offer number 5 as backup.
So moved.
Get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Thank you. All right. We're getting there. Where does that take us to? 1743 Fairmont Parkway. Anyone here to speak for 1743 Fairmont Parkway? Okay. Sir, if you can come on up.
Pretty much, I just love the property and want to be the next owner-occupant.
What's your name, sir?
It's hard to hear you, sir. Could you speak up?
I said pretty much I just love the property, love the neighborhood, and would love to be the next owner-occupant.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
Steve Mickle.
Steve. Steve who?
Mickle.
Mickle.
M-I-C-K-E-L.
No, I just couldn't hear you. Aaron, I have a question on that property. Do you know who the property, it appeared 1733 is also vacant.
That I'm
Property
aware
to
of.
the west of it. Do you know, Mr. Mickle?
It does appear vacant. I don't have any information on that, but something I can follow up on.
It's not on the updated list.
It's on the,
It's not on the updated list.
right.
You fully intend to live there? Sir, you fully intend to live there?
Pardon, say that again?
You fully intend to live in that property?
Yes, yes.
I don't have any questions for Mr. Mickle.
No, no, sir, thank you. So I have a question on offer number 4. Create a home ownership, possibly. What was meant by that?
He had listed the intention of his end use was either to use as a rental or to sell. So that's where I put possibly, as if he sells
So
it,
it
it
wouldn't
would
be
create
for him.
home ownership.
All right.
It's,
Okay. And we have proof of funds for offer number 1.
I'd be in favor of Mr. Mickle's offer, the fact that he is looking to be a homeowner, and based on the information that he's provided, it looks like he'd be able to complete the job.
And I agree with Mrs. Smith. To me, he checked all the boxes up here except for one maybe. And he's taken the time to come speak to us this afternoon, and he wants to rehab it and live it. It's on a nice block, it's a beautiful home, and that's what we need, homeowners.
The only thing I would add, I agree with everything you just said. The only thing I would add is I think I would like to get the practice of accepting the backup offers as well on all these. So
yes.
I think we ought to, in my opinion, offer number 1, Mr. Mickle, and as a backup, the second highest bid. Offer 5.
Number 5.
They say home ownership is a yes as well.
I would add, though, with number 5, they came in at the last minute and did not provide many of the required documents that we have asked for.
And you were unable to check utilities because of the time frame, right?
And actually, since I created these, I was able to get the utilities on them. They didn't have anything, but they also have no home ownership, so there's nothing for us to be able to see anything on them for.
I think as a backup offer, they could, contingent on them providing necessary documentation. Most likely won't get to that point anyways, but.
I agree with Chris, offer 1. And just for my own clarification, then again with the NA, so past due taxes is NA because there's no home ownership to begin with, correct? Okay, great. Yes, I'm in favor of offer 1, and then 5 is the backup.
Okay.
I'll move that if necessary.
Good, thank you. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, I lost my list. Where's my, oh, there we go. Okay, on to 1958 Prospect. We're out of candidates unless Mr. Sundberg is going to jump in the fray.
I have a question on, is this a property that the land bank has now currently?
Yes. Yeah, 1958 Prospect was a acquisition through condemnation in 2021. We also picked up the lot off repository to the east of it. And we are
right, because that's
going to
vacant.
combine those as one large residential lot with a structure.
Yeah, this is a question, not a criticism. Is there any reason why we couldn't cut those weeds around there in the backyard?
We have.
We have, and they came back strong.
I'm saying today.
The issue-
I went by there today.
Yeah, the issue is that we have been unable to procure a landscape company. So since the news ran the story last week of our lots on 21st and Wallace, we received multiple requests to mow them from landscape companies. So hopefully by the end of the week, we will have a contractor procured for the land bank and authority lots.
Well, who cut the one on 21st and Wallace? It got cut. It's cut.
An individual who felt that we were...
In the neighborhood?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
we had provided him rehabilitation assistance in the past, and he felt that the redevelopment authority was getting the wrong end of the story. So he
Okay,
wanted to cut the lot.
great. It's going to take a lot of work here at that Prospect Avenue.
It looked far worse than that prior to that, so hopefully it won't be as bad to claim again.
I have a question on offer number 3. As we obviously are prioritizing the end use, here's a situation though where I'm not, so the other 2 did provide proof of funds.
Yes.
The other 2 have a history of projects, or I'm sorry, one of the other bids have a history.
Yeah, offer number 1 is actually the only other contractor that's had a positive rehab project for us before.
He's the individual who completed 2501 Brandis, the
Okay.
first and only
Is that
rehabilitated.
what guy?
What's that?
This-
Sharif, yes. He completed 2501 Brandis, and he also completed
Did a good job.
Yeah.
Fairmont and Downing for the redevelopment authority.
And he's the only one that's provided references
He did a good job.
Yeah.
here, right? The other 2 did not. I almost feel like we need to, as much as I want owner occupancy,
Right.
without proof of funds or references, it's incomplete. And we have a history of this individual. He did good on the other property.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job,
He did.
Okay.
and in short order as well.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'm fine with offer 1 as well, and perhaps, there's a communication to Mr. Taylor that just reminds him that perhaps we would have chosen differently if his application had been complete and want to try again in the future on another property, but for what we have, I think that's the decision we have to make.
And still, I think decide on a backup offer, although I don't think it will be necessary, but I still think picking a number 1 and a number 2 is a good idea.
So in this case, offer 3 would be our backup, and he would get an opportunity to bring
Right.
documentation. Okay, then I would seek a motion to approve offer number 1 with offer number 3 as a backup for 1958 Prospect Avenue.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, brings us to our last one, 2053 Warfel Avenue.
So we only have one offer on this for $500 purchase price. I guess, the information provided doesn't leave us very confident in the success of that project. And given the fact that the neighbor to the one side is extremely interested in it being a vacant lot, we really have, a $500 offer to rehabilitate, or we'll more than likely get a $500 offer for a vacant lot if we demolish the property. We had previously taken the property out to bid for demolition. We had a $3,500 demo bid, but we decided to provide some rehabilitation opportunity there. So you know, the demolition isn't gonna be substantial, you know, and the level at which I feel safe with offer one isn't quite there to make that recommendation to the board.
I agree. Again, proof of funds were not provided. Escrow question there was no reply, monetary escrow. So to me, it's incomplete. Since it was going to be either rental or sell, I don't think we have an obligation to expedite this for this individual. Let's see if the neighbor wants to add it to their property. My opinion. So. And we can let this individual know we're not declining him, but he needs to complete this. Maybe come back next month.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with that as well.
So we're going to, so I think I would seek a motion to table this offer pending that it's completed. And then in the meantime, if other bids come in, they come in. So if I can get a motion to table offer number one.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
I do have a question with all these that we've approved today. Will that recapture clause be put in the developer agreements for this group here? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the developer agreements currently have a reverter clause in them. The biggest change is for vacant lot sales. That we don't have that in the past, and as Mr. Gamble said, there's a lot of lots in Center City that could use that.
Well, so then a couple, I'll just make a couple comments real quickly. First of all, Chuck, welcome aboard. I was going to say that at the beginning.
Thank you,
No,
sorry.
he's got to introduce himself. Chris.
Sorry I'm late. What happened that all the parking spots are filled up? What's going on in the city, you know? Happy problem to have.
Happy to have you on board. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You picked a good month.
I have a technical question to ask on what we just approved as well, if I may follow Mrs. Devlin. So I understand and appreciate the importance or leaning towards home ownership. My question becomes, what happens if the developer chooses not to move into the home? And if they do choose to move into the home, how many hours do they have to be there? I mean, it's an interesting kind of, maybe I'm making a problem that doesn't exist just yet, but in 30-some years, I've seen it all, I think. So. And maybe that's just something to think about. Demonstrate, how do we ask the developer to demonstrate their commitment to be a homeowner, knowing that the world changes very rapidly? Anything could happen between now and a year from now or 2 years.
You know, that's a good point, Chuck, because I remember when I moved into my home, I think at that time they told us we had to live there for 10 years.
You know, maybe this could be tied to having a requirement for an escrow, where that's part of the agreement, where, because in the initial conversation about the escrow was that you agree to complete the project, you know, and also to honor the intended use. And so maybe after a year or two, they get that. I know it's not much; it's still something that we can hold. Until we maybe think of a better.
Yeah, if there's anything that just rises the requirements, but you're to the point the lady just made, and how do you require that? But if we're giving points towards, you know, if I'm favoring an application, that should mean something. So I don't have the solution, I just have the question today. I can sleep on it, and maybe I'll.
No, it's an excellent point, because, you know, what'll happen is everybody's going to come in here saying they're going to be a homeowner. Then, you know, we know that's not going to be true. So.
Yeah, I mean, or, you know, you say escrow, we could also hold a mortgage on it for a set amount that if they did at some point found to be non-owner occupant, that we could prohibit the sale without the repayment of that mortgage, kind of like an affordability period for a grant program.
Like HUD dollars or something where there's a requirement.
You know,
I
there's no money
like
out of
that.
their pocket, but we still have a placeholder on the property.
I don't want to make it prohibitive, because the world changes, and the world changes very quickly. I just don't want to get used. You know, I don't want people to find a loophole.
Yeah, I mean, and that would give the board the ability, you know, if we could figure out that avenue, that the board would have the ability to say, okay, under the circumstances, you know, you needed to move, we would
Case by
relinquish
case,
that.
we could
you know,
always-
That way, we're not holding their money. Our only income would be for sale proceeds.
Okay. Maybe you can think of something for next month. I know we're always throwing something at you, but,
Yeah.
you know, we're just trying to keep the intent the way it's meant to be. And, so thank you for that.
Maybe there is no answer, it's just that I
Right.
felt compelled to bring it up. Sorry.
And I guess the only other point to, they've all left now, but to those who were here and anybody who's watching this, you know, a lot of bids came in this month. If you were not selected, you know, we still appreciate the willingness to participate. You know, try again on another property. I mean, we want people out there to you know, to have interest in these properties. We want to work with you. So if you weren't selected this month, that doesn't mean, you know, it can't be next month. And then finally to the staff, thank you for all the hard work. You threw a lot at us this month, but you helped the way that you organized everything. It was a big help, so thank you. I don't have any comments. Unless anyone else does, let's seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll
Adjournment.
second.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.